This is absolutely perfect for the Houston Rockets, as a new NBA mock trade sends an elite shooter to Houston in exchange for some of the Rockets' role players. I tell you why this trade would be perfect for Houston and the details in today's video. Welcome into Rockets Digest. I'm Jace Andrews. I appreciate you joining us. If you have not already, hit that subscribe button. It's 100% free, and it's the easiest way to support the channel. Let's get right into it, as a new Rockets trade proposal has them landing Cam Johnson from the Nets, as Brooklyn is pursuing a lottery pick, which the Rockets currently have at number 10 via the Phoenix Suns. Now, there's a lot of things I like about Cam Johnson, and we'll get into it into today's video. However, the thing that I like about this trade the most is the details and what the Rockets would be sending back, as, spoiler alert, it's not that much for a guy like Johnson. We start first, though, with Cam's stats, as I think he is a really good player. He shoots a lot of threes, he is very elite on defense, and he's still under 30 years old. Now, he's still of the upper echelon of age in terms of what the Rockets have. However, he fits with the timeline of what the Rockets need, especially in an elite shooter. His three-point percentage went up, his field goal percentage went up, and he had a career high in points at 18.8. Now, the other stats, they're not the greatest. His rebounds, his assists, especially for a 6'8 guy, his rebounds, you would expect it to be a little more. However, his defense is very, very solid. And for a Brooklyn Nets team that was, quite frankly, not good last year, Cam Johnson was a shining star in that lineup. So, getting to kind of move him into a more of a winning now roster, a team that he could actually maybe have guys around him that perform, I expect that to make him even better. And so with that, let's go right into today's report. This is coming from Bailey Bassett of Clutch Points, saying, quote, "The Houston Rockets earned the 2 seed in a stacked Western Conference this year, but they own the Phoenix Suns pick at number 10. Houston already has plenty of young talent, and considering that they are ready to win now, they don't really have the space to develop another rookie," end quote. And I've been saying this pretty much all offseason. That number 10 pick, it's great, but it's trade assets. There's nobody at number 10 that I see that is going to make this Rockets team better next year. And we know that Rafael Stone has preached and preached and preached he wants to keep this Rockets roster whole, and I understand that. But if you can use that number 10 pick and a couple of your role players to go out and get a guy like Cam Johnson, I think it's 100% worth it, because that number 10 pick guy, maybe he's good in a year or two down the line. This upcoming year, when it is going to be a critical year for you, I don't exactly feel like that is going to be a monumental guy to have. Now, that's not to say that they could easily pick a guy at number 10. He could perform well. Obviously, they have had a very, very good draft capability. Alperen Şengün scouting him, Amin Thompson, Jalen Green. They have done very well drafting, but in my mind, that number 10 pick is just not useful to the Houston Rockets this year. And now we move on in today's story, saying, quote, "Houston is perhaps the most likely team that would be willing to trade outside of the lottery, so the Nets should consider calling the team for pick number 10 if they're serious about moving Johnson." Now, we know that the Brooklyn Nets obviously struggled last year. As I mentioned, Cam Johnson was a shining star. So it looks like they're going to move him, with all signs pointing to that. Now, there is a kind of wrench to throw in here. One of the other teams that may be looking at getting Cam Johnson, that's the Oklahoma City Thunder. So, maybe you want to go out and try and get Cam Johnson so that Oklahoma City does not get them, because that is a team in the Western Conference that you are going to be battling for. And especially when we finally get into the trade details here, it's a very good trade. The Rockets would receive Cam Johnson along with pick number 26 this year, so you're not going away empty-handed for the draft. The Nets would also receive, in this aspect, Jock Landale, Cam Whitmore, Aaron Holiday, and the pick number 10 that as mentioned. I love this trade. First of all, Jock Landale, if you saw his recent appearance on a podcast, I don't exactly know which podcast, I wish I did, but he mentioned how Steven Adams was somewhat taking minutes away from him. It's because Steven Adams is a plus player. And in that aspect, I don't think the Rockets really need Jock Landale next year, especially if they're able to re-sign Steven Adams. So, in that aspect, the really big pick here that you're giving away is probably Cam Whitmore. I think that's the only guy that I'm looking at like, that's a guy that I think would be good on this Houston Rockets roster. And there's a lot of stuff to talk about with Cam Whitmore, and some people think that, maybe he is a guy that the Rockets could develop and make a very good player. And I do see that as a potential. But in my mind, if you get Cam Johnson, I think its willingness to trade Whitmore. Now, he's so young, 20 years old. He's going to get so much better and still average 9.4 points per game. His stats are very good. He just doesn't really fit on the roster right now. Like, he doesn't have a spot at this current time. And so, in my mind, if you can make the trade that I just mentioned, I think Cam Whitmore is worth it. He kind of becomes in some ways a sacrificial lamb to try and improve this Rockets team and make them into a contender in the NBA Finals next year. However, at the same time, he has a lot of sprouting to do. I think he could be very good. However, at the same time, it's something that maybe you look at. And I know that Reed Shepherd and Cam Whitmore have been talked about as potential guys to come up and basically create a dynasty for this Houston Rockets team. And there's so many comments comparing the Rockets and saying they're going to become the next Oklahoma City Thunder. And while I agree with that, the Thunder did make some trades this past offseason. They signed some players, and they have a lot more picks than what Houston had in some ways. And most of those picks were a lot better, to be quite frank. As much as the Rockets have good picks, honestly, a lot of the Thunder was Sam Presti being smart and some luck in the draft lottery. So that's kind of the big thing with that. But Cam Johnson here, his stats have improved every single year since he joined the league in 2019 from UNC. 8.8 to 9.6 to 12.5, 13.9, 16.6. He had a little bit of a dip down in 2023 going to 13.4 points, but then right back up this season with 18.8 points per game. Again, his stats were really, really good. His three-point percentage was up there. His field goal percentage was up there. And he is a 3-and-D player in some aspects. And while I know there's kind of a controversy of, do the Rockets need somebody like that? Or maybe they can get by with what they have on their roster right now. And while I do understand kind of both sides of things, I would rather have Cam Johnson in so many different aspects. And so we continue on in this report. As Bassett says, quote, despite earning the 2 seed, the Rockets became just the 7th team to lose to a 7 seed in the first round of the playoffs. They need a little bit more help to get over the hump, and a veteran like Johnson makes more sense to add to the roster than a rookie does. Johnson is one of the best 3-and-D players in the NBA, end quote. And just to kind of housework here, if you don't know what a 3-and-D player, basically it's three-pointers and defense is what they excel at. That's kind of what Johnson is. He's a very good defensive player. He can excel at the three-point shot. That's a big reason why his points per game were a lot, because he was getting those shots finally, because, well, the Brooklyn Nets just weren't very good, so he was getting a lot of them. He led the team in points and assists this year, and, well, you think about it, 3.4 assists and leading an assist is not great, but besides the point, the Nets are just not that good. Johnson does a lot of things right. And in a lot of ways, I would love to see him on this Houston Rockets squad. Now, continue on here, some stats for you. The forward from UNC made 2.8 three-pointers per game at a 39% clip this past season. An influx of marksmanship from deep is exactly what the Rockets need. Now, if you're looking to try and compare that, you're saying 39%, that doesn't seem all that high. Like, I feel like the Rockets have some guys. Well, if you look at the players for the Rockets with a three-point percentage above or around what Johnson had, it's Alperen Şengün, Aaron Holiday, Fred VanVleet, Jabari Smith Jr., and Jeff Green. And I'm going to make my own qualified here and say that you have to shoot at least three three-pointers per game to be qualified. That would make Jabari Smith Jr. and Fred VanVleet the only two players that hit at a higher three-point percentage clip as qualified shooters, because Aaron Holiday shot 1.7 three-pointers per game and Alperen Şengün shot 1.1. Yes, their percentage was high, but it doesn't really mean much when you're only shooting, 1, maybe 2 a game. So that's kind of the way I look at it, and Johnson shoots a ton of three-pointers per game. I think he fits with the squad, and for multiple different reasons. Obviously, the Rockets in some ways need a shooting threat, and I think that's been a big focus this offseason for Rafael Stone, and in some ways, he wants to keep this roster together, but he also wants to add a shooter. That's been made very clear. Cam Johnson follows both of that. We have more from Bassett saying, quote, trade rumors have included Johnson since he arrived in Brooklyn. While the Nets are likely past the point of completely blowing things up, they also aren't quite ready to contend. So moving the 29-year-old for a lottery pick makes sense. And I have to agree, it just makes sense to move them for a lot of different reasons. And in some ways, I know the Rockets are trying to build that dynasty. They're trying to make this team contenders, not just for next year, but for years and years and years to come. But at the same time, they have a surplus of draft picks. There is a lot of stuff they could do. Now, they would have to decline Fred VanVleet's team option, which I think we all know is going to happen. They could re-sign him for a cheaper deal, but you cannot pay him $40 million a year. It just doesn't work in this aspect. And of the trade rumors we've talked about, Giannis, Kevin Durant, Ja, maybe even Trae Young, this is the easiest, it makes the most sense, and all you have to do is do exactly what you are already going to do. Decline Fred VanVleet's $44 million team option, and then pick him back up on a more long-term but smaller money deal. And now you sit here and think, okay, you're going to have a squad next year that's going to have Fred VanVleet, Cameron Johnson, Amen Thompson, Alperen Şengün, Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, Jabari Smith Jr. That's an elite 7 right there. That's an elite 7. I would argue you'd have 2 sixth mans coming off the bench in whatever aspect that does become. Now, does it suck to, let go of Jock Lindell, Aaron Holiday? Yeah, in some aspects, but the big thing is Cam Whitmore. I do think he has a lot of potential in this league. He's 20 years old, for goodness sake, and I truly believe he will be an elite star in the NBA. I just don't know if the timeline is ready and, honestly, there for Cam Whitmore. And that goes with a lot of different things. And it's one thing when you talk about Ime Udoka and wanting to win now. It's another thing when you look at Rafael Stone and wanting to keep this roster whole and build off what is already a good team. But it's really hard to deny that Cam Johnson makes this team better. Now, this is a big thing with Whitmore, saying, quote, additionally, Whitmore has flash greatness in Houston, but the team's surplus of young talent has prevented him from getting much of an opportunity. He could put his shot-making and athletic abilities further on display with a change of scenery and perhaps break out into something special in Brooklyn, end quote. And if this trade does happen, I would wish the best for Cam Whitmore. I think he's a great player. But if you look at the 2 young guys that I would consider high value trade assets, Reed Sheppard and Cam Whitmore, I think you keep Reed Sheppard. We saw what he did when he was able to get minutes. He can shoot the lights out. And as much as I love Cam, he is a great defensive guy. He can shoot well. I just think when push comes to shove, his minutes are never going to be what they need to be for him to be as good as I believe he can be. And that's kind of the big thing with Cam Whitmore is his defense is great. His shooting is there. He doesn't fit. He just doesn't fit. And for so many different reasons for this Rocket squad. And it's really a hard thing for Rafael Stone to do and a hard thing for the Rockets to try and figure out what to do to make this roster better. But at the same time, Cam Whitmore, he's not going to make this roster better next year. At least in my mind, he's not going to get the minutes to make it better. Cam Johnson, I would have a hard time saying he does not make this team better. And, it's tough because obviously we know what Whitmore can do, but this trade just makes so much sense. Let me know down in the comments. Do you think you would take this trade? Is this something you would do? Is this the best trade we've presented to you? / is there a trade that you have in mind that you'd like? I want to know all your thoughts in the comment section. I promise you, I'm looking at them. I'm trying to respond as much as possible. I'm liking every one of them, though. I'm liking as soon as I see those, I'm reading them and like them. So get down there, interact with us, and that's the best part about this channel. It's a Rockets community, not just a channel where I get to talk to you. I want you to talk to me too. Want to talk Rockets ball, and this is one of the most fun off seasons the Rockets are going to have and probably will have had in the past 20 seasons. So, get down there. And of course, if you have not already, hit that subscribe button. We do appreciate you and all the support we've been getting. 1,500 subs does not go unnoticed. We are skyrocketing up, and I can't wait to see where this channel goes. As for me, though, I will see you next time here on Rockets Digest. For now, peace out, guys.